Story 1. I was upstairs in my room one afternoon, killing time before dinner, when the new neighbors caught my eye through the window. They just moved in next door, a typical suburban family in our quiet Midwest neighborhood. Think picket fences and manicured lawns in a place like Naperville, Illinois. What really grabbed my attention was their daughter, around my age, 17 at the time. She was out in the backyard, lounging by the pool in a bikini that left little to the imagination. From my vantage point, the angle gave me a clear view, and yeah, I stood there longer than I should have, like any red-blooded teenager would. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the yard, and I was lost in the moment when I heard it. A faint, shaky voice behind me. Sorry." It was barely a whisper, followed by the soft click of my bedroom door closing. My heart slammed against my ribs. I spun around, expecting, what? An intruder? But the room was empty. Door shut tight. No one there. Adrenaline pumping, I yanked the door open and bolted downstairs, yelling for my parents. They were in the kitchen, Dad chopping vegetables, Mom scrolling on her phone. I blurted out what happened, my voice cracking a bit from the scare. They exchanged that look parents give when they think you're overreacting. "Calm down," Dad said. "Probably just the wind or the house settling. These old places creak all the time." But it nagged at me. That voice, it sounded so young, so familiar. Like a kid's. It stirred something buried deep, a memory from when I was 9. Back then, I'd been messing around in the kitchen, knocked over a stack of dishes, and shattered one of Mom's favorites. She sent me up to my room as punishment, no questions asked. I trudged upstairs, feeling that mix of guilt and defiance kids get. As I reached the top, a weird chill hit me, like stepping into a drafty attic on a summer day. I hesitated at the door, my hand on the knob, and pushed it open slowly. The room wasn't right. My bed was gone, replaced by some antique-looking furniture I'd never seen. Dark wood dresser, a high-backed chair that looked straight out of a garage sale. Posters on the walls were different too, faded band stuff from the 80s or something, not my video game ones. And worst of all, against the window with the blinds half drawn, letting in that harsh afternoon light, was the outline of a man. Tall, broad-shouldered, just standing there, staring out. My stomach dropped. I froze, managed to stammer out, "Sorry," like I'd walked in on something private, then turned and ran downstairs, screaming bloody murder. Parents came rushing up, checked the room, everything normal. My bed, my stuff, no stranger. They chalked it up to my imagination running wild to dodge the punishment. "You and your stories," Dad had said, shaking his head. I buried it over the years, figured it was just a kid's brain playing tricks. But now, at 17, hearing that same sorry echo in my room, it clicked. I asked my parents about that old incident right then, heart still racing. "Remember when I broke the dish and freaked out upstairs?" Said the room looked different, with a guy at the window. Mom nodded slowly. "Yeah, you were always spinning tales to get out of trouble. But you did mention a man looking out the window. We thought you were just scared of being alone." That's when it hit me harder. The man at the window, that silhouette, broad shoulders, staring down at the neighbor's yard. It matched me. Exactly how I'd been standing moments ago, ogling the girl next door. And the voice? That timid, "sorry." It was mine, from when I was 9, somehow bleeding through time or whatever the hell this was. I tested it later that night. Couldn't sleep. Stood at the window again, deliberately this time, heart pounding as I waited. Nothing. But the next day, when she was out there again, I positioned myself just like before. Stared. And sure enough, faint as a whisper, that young voice piped up behind me. Sorry." Door clicked shut. It wasn't imagination. It was a loop, some glitch in the house or reality itself. Turns out, our place backed onto an old fault line. Nothing dramatic, but geologists say those can mess with electromagnetics, maybe even perceptions. Or hell, maybe it's just cursed ground. Native American burial sites aren't unheard of in these parts. Whatever it is, I've caught glimpses since. Shadows of my younger self flickering in mirrors, echoes of apologies I don't remember making. Worst part? Last week, at 42 now, married with kids of my own in the same damn house, I heard it again. But this time, the voice wasn't mine. It was deeper, older. Sounded like me from now, apologizing for something I haven't done yet. And when I turned to the window, the yard was empty. But I swear, in the reflection, I saw a figure bolting away. A kid, scared out of his mind. Story 2. The cafeteria hit me with that familiar stench of greasy pizza and sour milk as I pushed through the double doors at Roosevelt Elementary, a typical brick-and-mortar school in suburban Ohio. It was 5th grade, another lunch period in the grind. Same sticky tables, same kids yelling over each other. I grabbed my tray, a slice of pizza barely holding its shape under a blanket of cheese, and slid into my usual spot with my buddies, the ones I'd known since T-ball. I was halfway through a bite when it crashed over me, a wave of déjà vu so sharp it felt like a needle in my brain. This wasn't just the usual been here before haze. Every detail snapped into focus. The hum of the fluorescent lights flickering like a dying moth, the clatter of a tray hitting the floor 2 tables over, the way my friend Ethan's chipped front tooth flashed as he laughed mid-sentence. I knew what was coming next, like I'd read the script. Ethan, with his messy blonde hair and that cocky grin, was about to lean in and say, "Yo, Ben, you gonna eat that crust or just stare at it?" Kid logic took over. I had to test it. Prove it wasn't my imagination. Before he could open his mouth, I leaned forward, matched his slouch, and said word for word, "Yo, Ben, you gonna eat that crust or just stare at it?" His jaw dropped, and he said it at the same time, our voices locking in sync like a dubbed-over movie. Then, just as I knew he would, he laughed. "What the how'd you steal my line, man?" The table went quiet, kids staring like I'd pulled a magic trick. Ethan's grin faded fast, his eyes narrowing. "Dude, that's creepy. Don't do it again." I laughed it off, high on the rush, but the déjà vu fizzled out, leaving my skin prickling. Lunch ended, and we shuffled to class, Ethan giving me a wide berth in the hall. I tried telling another kid, Nate, about it later, but he just shrugged. "You're weird, Ben." That night, I lay in bed, the house dead quiet except for the hum of the AC unit outside my window. My brain wouldn't let it go, replaying the cafeteria, Ethan's spooked face. What if I could do it again? Sleep hit hard, but I bolted awake at 2:13 a.m., heart hammering from a dream. In it, I was back at the table, but Ethan's eyes were wrong, glassy, like a doll's. He leaned in, whispering, "You stole it. Give it back." Over and over, faster, until the whole cafeteria was chanting it, their faces blurring into mine. I shook it off as a nightmare, just a kid's brain running wild. But the next day, Ethan wasn't at school. Teacher said he was out sick, strep throat, probably. I sat alone at lunch, the déjà vu creeping back, softer but there. Nate leaned over, scratching his neck like always, and I felt it coming. Ethan's probably faking to skip math. Before he could finish, I blurted it out, pitch perfect. Nate froze, pizza slice dangling. "How'd you?" "Dude, stop that." He scooted his chair back, eyes darting like I'd cursed him out. Ethan showed up the day after, quieter than usual, his usual smirk gone. At recess, he grabbed my arm by the basketball court, voice low. "That thing you did at lunch? I dreamed it. Exact same moment, you saying my words before me. But in the dream, I wasn't me. I was stuck, watching you take over." My stomach twisted. I hadn't told him about my dream, the chanting, his glassy eyes. How could he know? We avoided each other after that. But the déjà vu didn't stop. It had hit in small bursts, knowing the exact moment a kid would trip in the hall, predicting Mrs. Carter's pop quiz questions word for word. I kept it to myself, scared to test it again. But one day, I couldn't resist. After school, Ethan and I ended up alone in the library, reshelving books for detention. The air was thick with dust and old paper. I felt the buzz again, stronger, like static in my skull. I knew he'd turn and say, "This sucks, let's ditch." I beat him to it. "This sucks, let's ditch." He flinched, hard, dropping a stack of books. "Stop it, Ben," he shouted, louder than I'd ever heard him. "You're stealing it. My thoughts, my words. I feel it." His voice cracked, and he backed toward the door, eyes wide. "It's like you're inside my head." I tried to laugh, play it off, but my mouth went dry. He bolted, and I didn't see him at school again. Word got around he'd switched to homeschooling, something about stress. His mom told my parents he'd been having nightmares, waking up screaming about someone taking his place. I buried it, told myself it was just coincidence, kid stuff. The déjà vu faded over the years, and I moved on. High school, college, a desk job in Cleveland pushing spreadsheets. Until last month. I was scrolling X late one night, the kind of aimless doom scroll you do when you can't sleep. A post caught my eye from an account I didn't follow, Ethan's name, same messy blonde hair in the profile pic, older now but unmistakable. The post was a rant. Ever feel like someone's living your life? Like they stole your words, your moments, and you're just watching? My chest tightened. I hadn't thought about him in decades. I messaged him, just a quick, "Hey, it's Ben. Been a while." The reply came in seconds. "Yo, Ben, you gonna eat that crust or just stare at it?" My phone slipped from my hand, clattering on the floor. I hadn't mentioned the cafeteria. I hadn't told him my name was Ben in the message. The déjà vu hit like a freight train, but this time, it wasn't just a feeling. My apartment lights flickered, the same hum from the cafeteria buzzing in my ears. I stumbled to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and looked in the mirror. For a split second, it wasn't my reflection. It was Ethan, 5th grade Ethan, glassy-eyed, whispering, "You stole it. Give it back." Then he was gone, and it was just me, shaking, alone. I haven't slept right since. Every few nights, the déjà vu creeps in, not memories, but moments I know are coming. The barista's next order call. My boss's exact phrasing in a meeting. And last night, the worst yet, I felt it building as I walked past a pizza joint downtown, the smell of grease and cheese choking me. A kid bumped into me, maybe 10 years old, blonde hair, chipped tooth. He looked up, grinned, and said, "Yo, Ben, you gonna eat that crust or just stare at it?" I froze. He wasn't Ethan. But as he walked away, he glanced back, and his eyes, they were glassy, just like the dream. Story 3. The wipers slapped rhythmically against the rain-slicked windshield as Dad and I cruised down that stretch of I-10, the kind of lazy afternoon drive where the conversation drifts easy between old fishing trips and his gripes about the Saints' latest draft pick. "You know, son, if you'd stuck with that bait I showed you last summer, we might have hauled in a keeper instead of those minnows," he chuckled, his voice gravelly from years of chain-smoking camels. I laughed, firing back about how his secret knot was just a fancy way to lose tackle. We passed the faded sign for Elm Street exit, then the chain-link fence around Jefferson Parish Middle School, kids spilling out like ants from a kick till even though classes had let out hours ago. That's when the dream clawed its way back, sharp as a hook in the gut. I'd had it a month earlier, one of those fever dream nights after too much takeout from po' boys and pickles. In it, we were right here. Same talk, same rain pattering like Morse code, when a blur of red metal T-boned us at the next light. Sirens wailed, hospital lights blurred into white noise, and I flatlined on a gurney, Dad's face the last thing I saw, twisted in that helpless rage he saved for oil changes gone wrong. I shook it off in the dream, woke up soaked in sweat, chalked it up to bad po' boys. But now, real life was tracing the script line for line. The radio crackled with a weather update. More showers rolling in from the Gulf, and Dad eased off the gas as the Raising Cane's sign loomed up on the right, its neon chicken glowing smug through the downpour. The light ahead flipped yellow, then red. My pulse hammered like a busted alternator. "Dad," I said, voice cracking higher than it had since high school, "pull over. Hazards on. Now." He shot me a sideways look, that raised eyebrow he pulled when I suggested splitting the check at dinner. "What's eating you, kid?" "We're not late for." But I was already fumbling for the switch, my hands slicker than the dash. The car lurched to a stop in the turn lane, orange blinkers pulsing like a heartbeat. Traffic crawled past, horns blaring from the cross street. No wreck in sight, just the usual Baton Rouge snarl. Semis rumbling, a Prius zipping too close. Then it happened. From the left, a red Honda Civic, 98 model, dented fender like it had kissed a guardrail, barreled through the intersection on our red, tires hydroplaning just enough to fishtail. It would have clipped us dead center, right at the driver's door. The kind of hit that crumples steel and ends calls. Dad's knuckles went white on the wheel. "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph," he muttered, crossing himself quick the way Grandma taught him. The Honda skidded to a halt 20 feet ahead, driver, a wiry guy in a saint's cap, yelling into his phone, peeling out like nothing before the lights cycled green. We sat there another full minute, hazard still flashing, rain drumming the roof like impatient fingers. Dad finally eased forward, glancing at me like I'd grown a second head. "How'd you know? You see that fool coming?" I mumbled something about gut instinct, but inside, it was unraveling me. The dream hadn't just warned. It had rehearsed. Every beat, Elm Street, the school fence rattling in the wind, even the faint smell of Cane's frying oil wafting through the vents, had synced up like a bad omen on repeat. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house in Metairie creaked under the storm, palmettos scratching the siding like claws. I scrolled news on my phone till 3 a.m., half expecting a clip of the near miss. Nothing. Dad knocked on my door at dawn, coffee in hand, looking grayer than yesterday. "Hey, about yesterday. You all right?" That wasn't no coincidence. We talked it out over beignet from the corner spot, him probing gentle, me dodging with jokes about psychic hotlines. But his eyes lingered, like he'd seen ghosts in his own rear view. Weeks blurred by, the incident fading to barstool stories at the local dive, the one with the neon Abita sign flickering like a bad signal. I'd laugh it off with buddies over wings. Yeah, dodged a bullet, cause of a nightmare. Passed the hot sauce. But the dreams didn't stop. Not the same one, but echoes, driving with Dad, always that stretch of I-10, always a red flash at the edge. One had us pulling into a gas station off Veterans Memorial, only for the pump to erupt in flames from a leaky nozzle. Woke up gasping, checked the clock. 2:47 a.m. Next morning, Dad texted from the station. "Close call, pump shorted out, singed my sleeve. Stayed home today." I started avoiding rides with him. Made excuses, work overtime at the refinery, gym sessions that stretched into happy hours. He noticed, called me out over crawfish boil one Sunday, family crammed around the picnic table in the backyard, steam rising like swamp fog. "You're spooked, son. That dream thing. It's got you jumping at shadows." I nodded, beer going warm in my hand, but didn't spill how the latest one ended. Not with my blood on the asphalt, but his. A semi-jackknifing on the overpass, pinning the truck cab like a crushed beer can. "Your turn to drive next time," the dream Dad had said right before the crush. Pushed it down, like always. But 2 months after the Cane's light, Dad rang me at the yard, voice tight over the hum of pipes. "Need a lift home." Truck threw a rod on the way to the casino in Bossier. I picked him up at a shell off the interstate, the air thick with diesel and regret. We merged onto I-10 eastbound, sun dipping low, painting the median strips bloody. Conversation flowed same as ever. His bad beat at the blackjack table, my latest gripe with the foreman. Past Elm Street. The school fence. Cane's sign, now mocking with a fresh, now hiring banner. My throat closed. "Dad, Hazards. Pull over. He didn't argue this time, just flipped them on, coasting to the shoulder as semis whooshed by. The light 50 yards up burned red. We waited, silent, the dashboard clock ticking like a fuse. Then there. Not a Honda, but a red F-150, oversized tires, some roughneck in a cutoff ignoring the signal, hauling ass from the service road. It would have merged blind, right into our lane. Dad exhaled slow. Damn. Again. We didn't talk much after that drive. He quit the Camel's Cold, started those church meetings at St. Rita's, the ones with the folding chairs and styrofoam coffee. I threw myself into overtime, but the dreams sharpened, glimpses of the red truck's plate, LA7Z4-192, before the twist. Last one hit midweek, me behind the wheel this time, Dad shotgun, the F-150 looming. I swerved in the dream, clipped a barrier, spun out into the bayou. Woke screaming his name. Drove to his place that morning, unannounced. He was in the garage, tinkering with the old Chevy, radio tuned to WWL talking hurricane prep. Dad, we gotta stop driving that route. All of it. He wiped grease from his hands, eyed me steady. Already did. Swapped shifts, nights now, take the 610 loop. Relief hit, then curdled. When? Last week. After the truck thing. He paused, pulling a crumpled napkin from his pocket, unfolded it slow. Scribbled in his blocky print, LA7Z4-192. My blood went cold. Saw it in a doze off the dock yesterday. Felt? Off. Like you described. We stare at each other across the hood, the radio droning about evac routes. The dreams aren't warnings anymore. They're rehearsals, bleeding into him now, threading us tighter than blood. Last night, another one. Us in the garage, napkin in hand, but the red truck idles outside, engine rumbling like a growl. Driver steps out. Not the roughneck, but me. Older, eyes hollow. Your turn, he says, and climbs in. I haven't slept since. Dad's got the shotgun loaded by his bed, says it's for gators in the yard. But we both know. The road's waiting, and whatever's scripting this, dream, curse, or just rotten luck, it's got our lines down pat. Next drive, I wonder, who forgets their cue?